More than 900 firefighters strong, the Denver Fire Department has a long, rich tradition and a history of providing quality, timely, and professional emergency services to the people of the city and county of Denver. I'm Eric Tate, Chief of the Denver Fire Department, and like any large urban fire department, we've had our share of line-of-duty fatalities. And outside our department headquarters sits a memorial that lists the names of the firefighters who have made that ultimate sacrifice in service to the citizens of the city and county of Denver. Since the year 2000, we've added the names of Firefighter Robert Crump, Assistant Chief Charles Drennan Jr., and Lieutenant Rich Montoya to our memorial. More than 1,500 miles east of us, these same names now rest beside other heroic firefighters on the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Emmitsburg, Maryland. The Denver Fire Department and National Fallen Firefighters Foundation have a common goal: to honor these heroes and do our best to prevent other firefighters from dying in the line of duty. Founded in 1866, the Denver Fire Department also has a strong reputation of dedication to achieving the highest levels of preparedness, prevention, and community involvement.
Did you search the bed?
That reputation includes a diligent commitment to the safety of the citizens we serve and the firefighters who serve them. To do this, we must learn from our close calls and our losses. We honor those who have fallen by making sure their deaths are not in vain. Our commitment stretches far and wide and focuses on personal safety.
If we would have been a second later getting into that intersection, I think we all would have died.
Behavioral health.
Denver lost 2 top firefighters.
We all have an obligation to act when you notice those signs and notice those potential issues going on.
Individual size up.
They did not go in there knowing that anybody would be in the water. They were in full structural gear.
And safety leadership.
Nothing is routine. Even though it can seem routine, sometimes nothing is routine.
Leadership is the key element in firefighter safety. Leaders at every level of our department learn from the past to make the future safer for the citizens we serve and all firefighters. The Denver Fire Department's safety commitment is in place so everyone goes home.
Firefighters from stations 15 and 8 cross paths responding to many of their emergency calls. The firefighters from these stations know the dangers of this intersection. But one night, their guard was down.
It was in September of '88. It was a call in of smoke in the building. I was on the pumper. I'd been on the job for 3 years. Pumper 8 was responding down Vine here. They were going south on Vine. Pumper 15 is responding west, coming down 13th here. And remember, they were open cabs back then. There was nothing to contain me inside. I was the plug catcher, and I thought I needed to catch the plug. I had just unhooked my seat belt. I was looking through the front windshield to pick up the plug when this happened. But that's when it hit us. I heard this loud crash. Pumper 15 hit us right in front of the duals. I came out of the seat, I bounced off the basket, and flew up over the top of Pumper 8. I don't remember that, but I remember seeing the street coming at me and just ducking my shoulder and rolling over. And then all I saw was Pumper 8 rolling right at me. You know, I thought they were gonna run right over me. I thought 3 years on the job and I'm not going home, you know. It looked like the officer was dead. He was hanging out the front. The windshield had blown out. The engineer was hanging out the side, and he was in pain, and he was yelling. It's an accident that could have easily killed all 8 people that were involved in it. walking Whiskey Charlie off over to.
Today, Larry Bishop is assigned to Denver's International Airport as part of the department's Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Unit.
Surprisingly enough, it's the first time I've been back here since the accident. And I was just almost overcome with emotions. I'm 3 years away from the end of my career now, and I've got to see my 2 girls grow up. I've got to know my 2 grandchildren. Things that I was this close, and not only me, but the rest of us were this close to never getting to see.
And here's Whiskey Echo.
It brings everything home. I think that's the things we need. The young guys need to be aware of. They need to know, hey, it's not all just gung-ho, balls to the wall kind of a thing. I mean, that's a great thing. We've all been there, but we just need to slow down a second. Lights are on. It happens in a split second, and we just need to be thinking all the time. These were 2 experienced veteran engineers, good engineers, running out of busy firehouses. I think what struck me was that an accident can happen absolutely anytime to anybody, no matter how good you are.
This accident was a wake-up call for Denver to make some safety changes. All rigs now have enclosed cabs, and all firefighters are seated with safety harnesses intended to accommodate their gear. Denver fire apparatus now sound an alert if a firefighter seatbelt is not buckled. And all the rigs now carry GPS screens that track the proximity of other responding fire trucks. Another key element of Denver's safety strategy is human nature.
Competitiveness is good, but not to the point that it's dangerous. And I think we went through a long change on that to say, let's get there fast, let's get there safely, and let's look at the things that can happen. We have to make sure that we get there as an entire crew so that we can do the things that we have to do to help the people that are in trouble.
Copy. Primary on the first floor done.
The department training focuses on changing the mindset, getting everyone from top to bottom to take responsibility for personal safety.
As I'm driving, I'm seeing what's happening, and I've seen how many close calls happen all the time around here. So yeah, seatbelts have definitely become a priority. The communication is very important to all the rigs responding. If the officer gets on the radio and they both give their locations, you know whether you're not going to meet up with them at all or whether it's going to be close. Just slowing yourself down and just knowing that you can't effectively make any difference if you don't get there.
This mindset of change and buy-in requires leadership at all levels in a fire department. This has been especially true with the policy that mandates the use of seatbelts.
The guys hated it. They were thinking, that's going to slow us down from helping people, save lives. But they have to realize we can't save anybody's life if you're flying through a windshield.
I think it starts with a true personal conviction that safety is important and that there's a compelling reason why we're pushing it. Then we can share that message in a way that has some meaning. When I had only been a captain for maybe a year, the people who were under my command weren't wearing their seatbelts. I early on made the statement that that was my expectation, and I remember saying, "Why aren't you guys wearing your seatbelts? How many times do I have to talk about this?" They said, "Cap, why do you want us to wear our seatbelts?" They expected me to say, "Because it's the rule, it's our policy, you could get in trouble." And I didn't. What I said was, because I could never live with myself. If something happened to one of you guys when we were in an accident and I hadn't set my foot down about something this simple.
Flash floods and moving water can be deadly, even when they appear calm on the surface. A fact the Denver Fire Department knows all too well.
Water is supposed to be a firefighter's friend, and it was into this deluge that dozens of them waded to rescue stranded motorists like Jeanette Estes.
It was starting to rise up pretty fast inside.
Firefighter Robert Crump made a tragic misstep into this culvert.
It was August 17, 2000. Heavy rains triggered street flooding. Firefighter Robert Crump and Squirt 10 were dispatched to assist traffic in a low-lying area.
We had water from over there all the way across this whole area.
Fellow Station 10 firefighter Scott Johnson was directing traffic just a stone's throw from Crump.
The first firefighter come up to rescue her, stepped out to reach her, and slipped down in toward the gully. Bob Crump then reached down to grab him to pull him out. When they did that, he slipped into the water and down into the gully and got caught into the current.
The race was on for Denver firefighters to rescue one of their own.
I was the primary diver that day on our dive team. I suited up in a mask and regulator. The water was at a level probably 4 feet above the inlet itself. Slow swirl on top. Couldn't really tell what was actually, the force of the water going through there. Lowered myself down in front of the pipe, and my feet automatically were sucked in. I had my face piece on, got sucked off my face. I was pulled down into the tube myself. It sounded like a jet airplane. It was so loud. One of the loudest noises I've ever encountered. And the minute I got sucked into this, you just automatically knew he was gone.
37-year-old Robert Crump's body was found blocks from where he disappeared beneath flash floodwaters.
Today, our city shares the pain of the Crump family.
Robert Crump left behind a wife and 3 daughters. The oldest, Jessica, was 13 at the time.
I'm so very proud to be his daughter. And I hope and I pray that he's okay in heaven and that God is protecting him.
I remember walking into the church and not understanding necessarily the magnitude of my father's funeral and how many people came to show their support. My father is my inspiration, and this is my father's Nomex hood. I have decided to follow in his footsteps. I'm now a firefighter with Golden Fire Department.
Robert Crump's death had a huge impact throughout the Denver Fire Department. First, they worked on trying to help their own heal.
When I got here to the firehouse, the big thing for me was to talk to all the members that were here and to just see how they feel and where they were at. I had to really look at, okay, what's good for the firehouse? And that's why I said, okay, guys, let's do this. Let's set up a nice area in the firehouse where we can put a tribute to not just Bob Crump, but to the other firefighters that have died in the line of duty at this firehouse. For some of the people that went through it, it's kind of a healing process for them. But another good thing is for all the young firefighters coming on the job to understand the reality of this job. It's a very dangerous job.
Come on, it sounded like you mean.
Next, the Denver Fire Department renewed its emphasis on a firefighter's individual size-up.
Throughout the fire service, we have to push this aspect of personal size-up. There's not an incident out there that's routine. There's not an incident out there that can't be dangerous to a certain degree. And if you're not doing a personal size-up and recognizing the most important things of how do you get out of this situation, then you're doing a disservice to yourself, your crew, and your family.
Everybody has responsibility for being safe, but when you're a company officer, it now gets multiplied. And every member of your crew, that becomes your responsibility.
Companies, let's head to rehab.
And your #1 job is to make sure those crews are safe. And as we escalate through the ranks, it just keeps multiplying. Everybody has to embrace that philosophy of, are we doing everything we can to keep our crew safe?
The Denver Fire Department also put a renewed emphasis on swift water rescue training. Today's gear and rescue strategies reflect painful lessons learned.
We're going to get over to the riverbank over there.
You know that we learned the lesson the hard way, but we've put some things in place to prevent that tragedy from happening again.
All right, here we go.
Denver's Swift Water Rescue Team maintains an aggressive initiative to try to train every firefighter in swift water tactics and danger signs.
We've been able to train close to 600-700 of the Denver firefighters. So now when we go on a water rescue call, we know and we have the ability to operate even safer, knowing that our firefighters have that knowledge when they're working next to the moving bodies of water, so that they can effect a reach rescue from the shore safely.
As a firefighter herself, Jessica Crump understands the need for discipline when it comes to individual or personal size-up. She knows how critical it can be for her and her fellow firefighters.
It wasn't a water rescue. They did not go in there knowing that anybody would be in the water. They were in full structural gear. It was a moment that changed lives forever. What I want the most out of this is for people to learn and to take away something good from this tragic event. My goal is to make it home to my family. My goal is to make sure my brothers and sisters go home to their families and that they don't ever have to have that knock on their door at 11 o'clock at night like my family did.
September 11th, 2001.
Everybody, please start walking towards the east side.
Anxiety was high across the nation. In Denver, the city was on alert, and the fire department was under a hold order and lockdown.
All we could talk about was how many firemen were going to die that day. We knew it. It was inevitable. We weren't expecting anything bad here, but anxiety levels were through the roof, of course.
Later that night, Denver had its own tense emergency to handle.
On the night of 9/11, we responded to a structure fire up on the west side. It was a cinder block building with a concrete roof. I was on a truck company. We entered through the delta side of the structure. There's just a haze and of smoke. We just couldn't make the seat of the fire. There was just zero visibility and just junk. Just everything falling on top of you. Chief Drennan arrived with us. We responded out of Station 1. So he responded and took incident command right off the bat. He was a commander. He was a role model. He was a fireman. He was what we all aspired to be.
Firefighters worked through the night to put out that fire. It was the last fire that Assistant Chief Charles Drennan Jr. ever faced.
My father was the incident commander on that fire. You know, I've heard from other people that were on scene that night that was one of the most difficult fires that he has ever commanded. You know, that fire, could have very potentially claimed some of our own lives there that night.
Drennan knew the stress that this fire and 9/11 had taken on some of his fellow firefighters.
The day after, he was very concerned with one individual that was at that fire that night. Was a captain on one of the engine companies in addition to one of his good friends. He called me and he said that, this one particular individual he's having problems with. He spoke to the chief. He needs to take care of this. He's going to go pick him up. He's going to bring him downtown to see if they can just get him some help. He was concerned that he would potentially do harm to himself. To this day, I don't believe that my dad felt that he was in any danger at all.
That was the last time Chief Charlie Drennan spoke to his father.
Today, the Denver Fire Department mourns the loss of one of their own. Assistant Denver Fire Chief Charles Drennan Jr. was just trying to help a friend, and it cost him his life.
A fellow firefighter suffering from depression and paranoia killed Drennan, then took his own life.
I've been on the department 19 years. Of that 19 years, the first 7 of those years is that my dad was my supervisor. So I was able to work with him and for him for those 7 years. It was an absolute shock. It was obviously the defining moment of my life.
You and your dad
I think that's a really nice picture, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. We had a relationship I don't know that everybody can speak of. You know, my dad was my best friend.
Assistant Fire Chief Charles Drennan Jr. was remembered today by his family and friends as a dedicated leader who died reaching out to a colleague in need.
He was going to assist a friend, and he would have done it for everybody in this room.
More than a decade after these deaths, the Denver Fire Department still grapples with how best to try to prevent this kind of line-of-duty death.
People exhibit signs. Not everybody's going to have that whole piece to that puzzle, but there's certainly things and events and, I guess, actions that people take that should raise a red flag.
From this tragedy, the Denver Fire Department discovered a need for self-assessment and improvement in the area of behavioral health.
First of all, we need to look at what we didn't do. I think we didn't provide the training, we didn't provide the resources for that individual to know they could reach out to resources that are available in the city, not just on our job, but they can do it away from our job.
One concrete change was a department effort to improve its existing peer support program.
Our peer supporters receive training once a month. They reach out into our general firehouse communities and they let people know they're there. We also keep the confidentiality very strict involved in that, and that has actually stimulated our response.
Still, Denver fire officials admit that more work is needed, and they continue searching for answers.
Communication in the fire department is not only key in what we do under emergency circumstances, it's even more key in what we're doing in non-emergency circumstances. So I think hitting on that communication is going to be one of the biggest answers we have in getting all the pieces of that puzzle together.
We have to get in this early, and we have to get in it at a more basic level.
To help the fire service be more proactive, the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation has developed a new behavioral health model using emerging methods specifically for firefighters.
In the past, the approach would have been to respond only after traumatic events. This model says that we use processes every day that firefighters are using every day, both for themselves and to help the public that they serve, so that when there's a traumatic event, they already have the skills to just ramp it up a notch to help themselves through that trauma.
More information on the behavioral health model from the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation is available at everyonegoeshome.com.
My belief is the leaders of the organization, regardless of rank, we all have an obligation to act when you notice those signs and notice those potential issues going on with people, because nobody knows somebody better than when you're spending a third of your life with them.
Sunday, May 14, 2006. An early morning house fire breaks out in North Denver. Fire Station 9 gets the call.
Early morning fire inside a two-story house.
Firefighters rescue a 16-year-old girl from the second floor. All occupants are safe. A textbook response until one firefighter's personal alert safety system sounds. Lieutenant Richard Montoya was still inside the burning home and not moving. No one knows exactly what happened, but somehow Montoya took in superheated air and smoke. He was found unconscious under a mattress. His mask on, and air was still left in his tank. He was pulled from the house and rushed to a hospital, but it was too late.
The single-family dwelling fire or the house fire, we are well practiced at that. We do it a lot, and sometimes firefighters will use the phrase, it's no big deal, it's just a house fire. The reality is that that firefighter, who was a 31-year veteran of this department, died inside, once again, a 1,245 square foot house, a relatively small house. So I guess the analogy is a baby can drown in a bathtub, and we have to take all of these things very seriously.
Lieutenant Richard Montoya, a 31-year veteran, was just days away from retirement when he died.
Strengthen our hope that Richard, our brother, will share in his resurrection.
This line of duty death was an eye-opener within the Denver Fire Department.
That wasn't that different than any other call that we had been on. And so after you get over that shock, it's then the willingness to talk about it amongst ourselves, but then also provide the opportunities for those people that are more affected by it, that were on scene there, provide the counseling that they may need, provide the peer support that they may need, you know. And then as a department, not trying to cover it up, or not worried about being embarrassed that we may have done something wrong.
Denver firefighters had to take a hard look in the mirror to try to figure out what went wrong and what to do about it.
One of the things that we had learned from there was that it's very easy to become separated or not instantly aware of where your other crew members are. And we really embrace this, you know, either 2-in, 2-out system or the buddy system or the team concept in firefighting, and that concept has to be with us 100% of the time at 100% of the calls. We also learned the importance of making sure that we have ALS responding at the very beginning of any structural fire.
As a result, the Denver Fire Department strengthened its policy, training, and emphasis on its procedures in even the most routine responses.
Nothing is routine. Even though it can seem routine, sometimes nothing is routine. So if we can treat everything as if it was a serious incident, then when that serious incident does roll around, I think we're going to be operating based out of habit, and those habits are doing things correctly.
I try to tell everybody there is no routine call. You should be aware and looking at every time you go out the door. There is something to learn every time you go out the door. Whether it's the route that you take, traffic conditions going on, condition of the building when you arrive on scene.
There's reality versus routine, and we don't want people to get into a routine because reality will bite them. We want to get them to understand when they cross the threshold of the firehouse or their work environment in the morning, they're on the front lines, and they need to act as a professional and use their expertise at every level, every time.
Whether it's the occupancy has changed, the amount of people inside the building, how the people are reacting in the building, are they paying attention to the alarm and evacuating, or has it become routine for them and they're not evacuating? You need to be aware of what's going on.
On the large-scale incident training that we did last week, there were some differences.
Denver's command staff meets daily.
I get a final count of how many SCBAs we have.
It's here where the top leadership wrestles with the tough questions. The ones that come when a firefighter dies.
We're great at responding. We improve on it, we train on it, we teach everybody here's the expectation. But reacting, I don't know that we do enough. And a lesson unlearned is too costly for us to pay that price every time. It is a work in progress.
The #1 goal for the Denver Fire Department after a line of duty death is to try to make sure it never happens again.
Where do we go wrong as a department? Where do we go wrong as an organization? Where do we go wrong as a fire service that this happened? Because we try to prepare all the time for it not to happen.
It's difficult for the fire department to take a leadership role and, for lack of a better phrase, kind of air our dirty laundry in public. But that is something that we've done, and we've done it very well. We have to do a thorough investigation, find out really what occurred, and then we have to educate everybody on the job.
The greatest thing that can come from any of these is the ability to prevent them in the future. And we've had direct policy changes, but I think more importantly than a written policy is it helps facilitate that cultural change.
That answers that. We're on our way. Okay, we're going.
Will Norden has been a Denver firefighter since 1977. He's a captain on Truck 12, on the front line where lives are at stake and safety leadership is put into practice.
You can't teach somebody experience. It is something that you have to live. But the things that we can control is education. And I'm depending on that person to fill that spot. And they have a heck of a training academy to get them prepared for the street. Now it's up to us to show them what to do in real life situations. Well, Colfax and Zenobia. We're an aggressive department. We're going in unless there's factors that we can tell from the outside that we shouldn't be in there.
Department leaders at all levels walk that fine line between aggressive firefighting and safety.
Aggressive firefighting works. However, you do have to have those safeguards in place, which is why you have to adhere to incident command and why you have to adhere to, if someone tells you get out, you got to get out.
I mean, you get into the rig, obviously, you put your belts on.
Part of a leader's job is to reinforce the why behind procedures and policies dealing with firefighter safety.
So now it's more about safety. The gear's better. Some people say that's more dangerous because you can't feel the heat as well, and I think you still can.
I like to do informal critiques, if you will. That gives me a way to validate what I've done. It also empowers them to tell me what they've seen, why they made decisions that they made, so that we all know we're all ultimately looking out for each other on this scene.
Chief 7's responding 3602. River.
It's on the fire ground where critical risk-benefit decisions are made. Once Chief Ryan Nuanis was promoted in the department, he felt the weight of leadership.
911, what is the address of your emergency? 8101 East Bellevue.
One incident that stands out was an attic fire at a strip mall in 2012.
Go ahead, engine 24. We have fire in the attic, it's reported.
Soon after firefighters began an aggressive interior attack, the roof showed signs of collapsing.
Command from Tower 22. Command, go ahead. About 20 feet in on the peak, the roof's starting to go and cave in. If anybody's in there, they're going to get trapped. Start backing out, we're having a roof collapse.
Chief Nuanis ordered his firefighters to back out, transitioning to defensive operations.
That's affirmative. Back out tone. Back out tone, per command.
The two hardest decisions that I'll ever have to make as a chief officer are when I pull people out of a building and go defensive, or when I put people in a position that's marginal. Number one concern, obviously, is their safety, but number two concern is the safety of the citizens and the property conservation. Those two things really weigh on my mind, as I think they do every chief officer's mind. And the way that I think people perceive a good chief officer is one who is willing to make those tough decisions at the right time. It was a tough decision to go defensive on it, but it was the right decision.
Tough decisions aren't always popular, but they honor those lost in the line of duty and help keep other firefighters safe and ready for their next shift.
One of the things that we all have to know as leaders is you can't be thinking of this as a popularity contest. No matter what decision is made, there's going to be people that like the decision and people that don't.
I tell the young guys, or the newly appointed chiefs, that you earn your bugles two ways. And it's the first time that you get on a fire when you are offensive and you have to change that to a defensive call. It's real easy to get firefighters to go in and do their job. It's not so easy to stop them and pull them out. They don't like it. And then the other way you earn your bugles is when you stay offensive on a marginal fire, a fire that's really raging through the building, a fire that's involving multiple parts of that building, and you make the judgment that the firefighters that are working that fire have enough time, and the risk versus benefit is worth that risk to stay after that fire and stay offensive. And that gives you pause.
You know, 32 years ago, I had a plastic helmet on my head. 32 years ago, I didn't have a hood. Now we're in state-of-the-art equipment that really does protect us a lot better. It can also get us into trouble because it allows us to get in deeper.
Denver's Station 8 is the city's busiest. Crews average more than 25 calls a day, about 10,000 runs a year.
I can tell you in my capacity as a captain with the Denver Fire Department that has a company that works in a very, very busy, hazardous part of the city, safety is paramount.
This culture of safety is a big part of the leadership message in the Denver Fire Department.
Well, the mindset has changed a lot. Safety's number one, really, with our job now. So how do you know everybody's got their belt on?
And safety is something they talk about, even around the station dinner table.
Safety, traffic.
But part of this is discussion about what we are going to do with different incidents before we ever leave the firehouse. So we'll go over the standard type of incidents and standard operating procedure for those types of incidents, and if something changes, then when we get on scene, then I'll let them know what I want them to do differently.
Mashed potatoes.
I always took on the responsibility of saying, hey, these are my friends and my family. Anybody see him wash his hands?
No, I did not. If I get sick, it's going to be your fault, Roby.
It's up to me to make sure they're as safe as possible. And it doesn't change, because this is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. It's an external family, but they mean almost as much to me as my daughter.
This is Captain Norden's daughter, Kelly. She is also on the job as a Denver firefighter.
She's ecstatic about having this job. And I'm partly to blame, because every day I went home, I told them how much I enjoyed this job.
My dad is my hero, you know? I always looked up to him. He leads by example and shows people how to do the right thing instead of just telling them and sitting back and watching.
But Kelly's decision to become a firefighter goes deeper than her father's inspiration. She is a survivor of the Columbine High School massacre in 1999.
I was a junior at Columbine High School when the shooting happened. I was sitting in math that day taking a test, and we heard weird noises, we heard popping sounds, and you know, I'd never heard gunshots or anything like that before, so I didn't know what it was. But somebody pulled the fire alarm, and we were all able to get out that way first. So they evacuated us to a park across the street, and then we just waited.
Medical response at 1587 South.
Columbine was one of the reasons that I chose to come into the profession. It gives you an opportunity to help people like me right away. Okay, does it start on one side and then run, or does it stay in one spot and just stay sharp? I wanted to do more to help people and have more hands-on and be able to help immediately. She hasn't been able to take her meds for about a month, so it's a pretty cool thing to be able to get right in there and help people and be there, calm and support them in their worst moments. It's really an honor to be able to do that.
For the Denver Fire Department, the culture of safety begins with its newest firefighters.
I think it starts from day one when you come onto the fire department. We try to breed a culture within the training academy as that ultimately you have to be responsible for yourself so that you can also be responsible for others.
Command truck 26.
Bravery is no substitute for safety.
The Denver Fire Department, a tradition of service and leadership, helping to ensure everyone goes home.